Hi everyone, this is Ryan Chambers with California Citizens for Water, and today we're going to look at the TriColored Blackbird. So, it's a bird that lives in California, and this bird is relevant for the Del Puerto Canyon Reservoir and possibly other water or other projects going on in California that could threaten this bird. So, that's a picture of what it looks like. It is listed under threatened and it is endangered. So it's one of the only animals that is endangered, at least that would be affected by the Del Puerto Canyon Reservoir project. So some unique things about this bird is most of the time human activity decreases the amount of wildlife, but in some ways it increases the amount of other, or number, I should say, of other wildlife. So the tricolored blackbird has been able to adapt to agriculture in some ways, at least the grain fields of dairy farms, and it has been seen using those to nest, which is why when Southern California used to have a lot more dairy, but a lot of them have moved to the San Joaquin Valley, and that seems to be probably the biggest reason why the tricolored blackbird's population has increased somewhat recently over history. So in the in the 1900s. So it looks like, at least in that way, it has been growing in population in the San Joaquin Valley as a result of all the dairy farms. And however, though, since there were a lot of dairy farms in Southern California that were relocated, they've lost a large amount of population there, and it even says an overall loss in state population. So I'm sure there's other factors besides just dairy farms. So let's look into that. The habitat loss, and it says a reduction in freshwater marshes as breeding grounds. So historically, California used to have like a lot more wetlands, but about 90, I think at least over 90%, I want to say like 94% of the wetlands in California have been eliminated from urbanization or other reasons, farming. So that's habitat loss for these tricolored blackbirds, unless they can adapt and use, say, grain fields or something else, which luckily they've been able to do. So it does seem like their population is increasing in certain areas of California, like the San Joaquin Valley, but um, it's still a concern. And it's one. So another unique thing, by the way, about this bird is they're highly social. They have the largest colony out of any North American land bird. So a breeding colony with tens of thousands of birds oftentimes. But it says that's actually could be its downfall because of that. Now, let's look at the environmental impact report for the Del Puerto Reservoir and look up some more information about that. I can zoom in. Okay, so I want to zoom in just a little bit more. Okay, that's probably good enough. Now, no, a little bit less than that. So you can see the whole page. So it's listed as threatened, yeah. And they do live within 5 miles of the study area, with the study area being the Del Puerto Canyon Reservoir. It says the closest occurrence, though, is 1.5 miles southeast of the study area, and there's possible foraging habitat present in grasslands throughout the study area, but they don't nest there. So moving on to the next part about TriColored blackbirds and how the project is supposed to mitigate the loss, the possible reduction in population of the TriColored blackbird among other animals, as you can see. So some ways they might mitigate it is when there's a non-breeding season for them. That's when they could remove structures and vegetation for obvious reasons. And that will not always be possible, but oftentimes it will be. And it says the seasons in which that is. Now, it might replace their habitats with other habitats. There has to be mitigation for endangered species. Okay, let's look up some more information about it. The project would result in the permanent loss of 748 acres of foraging habitat. So somehow they would have to mitigate that. And mitigation could mean it's about equal to what it was in population before this project. But not necessarily. It's just mitigation is just what's required by law. So it might increase the population, but oftentimes more man-made projects decreases the population. But theoretically, it wouldn't be significant enough for it to be, quote, or maybe not quote, but like a big deal, even though if you keep having more and more projects, even if you lower the population by 1% each time, it's just like you have a bunch of projects and eventually the population keeps getting lower and lower. So let's go to the next part about TriColored blackbirds. No, that's just breaking down the 748 acres. Okay, that's pretty much all I'm going to cover today about the TriColored blackbird, but it's one of the only species that this project will affect, so it seems pretty significant, and it's good for people to know about the TriColored blackbird. Thank you for watching.